Welcome everyone to today's live demonstration, NetSuite for Software and High-Tech Companies. My name is Kimberly Odom. I lead NetSuite's marketing efforts targeting software, cloud, and internet companies. And I'm joined today by Carrie Augustine from our solution consulting team. Thank you for joining our webinar, and we're excited to showcase all of the benefits that NetSuite provides to high-tech companies like yours. NetSuite is a publicly traded company, so this is a standard slide that we use. I do want to point out that our demonstration today is focused on functionality that is generally available. Our most recent full year 2015 financial performance information can be accessed on our website. And so for those of you who may not be familiar with NetSuite, I just want to touch on a little bit of background about us. The metrics you see here clearly demonstrate our credibility as the #1 provider of cloud financials and ERP. NetSuite is the second largest cloud software company in the world and the fastest growing provider of cloud financials and ERP by a long shot. From the beginning, we've been pure cloud. We had to be in order to change the pain associated with legacy systems. To change that pain, financial management and ERP software had to truly be delivered as a service. NetSuite's scale and ability to execute is unsurpassed. We support everything from emerging startups to public companies, all the way up through some of the world's largest global enterprises. NetSuite is the fastest growing financial management platform in the world. Just to give you an idea of the scale, in Q4 of last year, NetSuite was adding 10 new customers every day. We have over 30,000 organizations all running on the same version of our product. Almost every new IPO over the last several years is running on NetSuite. NetSuite has been growing like this for years, so rest assured that not only is the platform capable of growth, but our ability to execute, to implement, and to support our customers at these growth levels has been proven over many years. This is not something that's new to us. We've been doing it for years. We are proven, reliable, and scalable. Our track record of success within the software and high-tech industry is a direct result of a large team of NetSuite professionals that are dedicated to success of companies like yours across all areas of the organization: sales, solution consulting, professional services, product management, and our executive team. You'll be working with individuals who have experience working with software industry customers and customers in the high-tech space. And that continues post-implementation through our account management organization and support personnel who are also dedicated to software and high-tech industry customer success. Our own experience as a rapidly growing SaaS company continues to inform our product strategy. Our solutions have been purpose-built, designed to alleviate key pain points tech companies experience at all stages of their growth. NetSuite runs on NetSuite. That is something you'll hear about from us about quite often. And over 1,300 customers who have benefited directly from our experience as we share our own internal best practices with our customers. The combination of dedicated industry experts and a deep industry-specific product solution set is the reason NetSuite is the #1 choice for modern high-tech companies. Looking across the universe of our customers in this vertical, you'll see the proven business results that we've been able to help them achieve. Here, I just want to throw this slide up quickly. This is the results from a research vendor, SL Associates, where they took a detailed look at customers in this vertical and measured the impact that they were able to see across their organization, across multiple areas of their business. And you can see what some of those results are, the improvements they've been able to drive from using NetSuite. Our track record of success with hyper-growth companies in particular is just unmatched. Over half of the JMP Hot 100 privately held software companies run on NetSuite. The vast majority of Bessemer Venture Partners, they have a category called the Next Cloud Unicorns, run on NetSuite. A large portion of the Wall Street Journal's Billion-Dollar Startup Club run on NetSuite. And when it comes to taking your company public later down the line, nobody comes close to matching NetSuite's expertise and helping tech companies achieve this very important milestone. Net-net, no matter what stage your business is in today, NetSuite is the cloud financials management and ERP solution that will meet your existing needs while future-proofing your business for all of the challenges that lie ahead. And now it's my pleasure to turn the presentation over to my colleague, Carrie Augustine. Prior to joining NetSuite, Carrie was the corporate controller for Rally Software. And here at NetSuite, she's worked with a very, very large number of our customers as they've turned to the cloud to modernize their back office, manage hypergrowth, and streamline all areas of their operations. Carrie, take it away.
All right, let's get started. I'm excited. So today we're going to go over a NetSuite overview, taking a look at the system architecture, roles, navigation, dashboards, and a customer 360. Then we'll move on to automating our order to cash. This is one of the areas that I personally had a lot of success using NetSuite in terms of automating the processes, streamlining, and ensuring you're being as efficient and effective as you possibly can in the order to cash cycle. And then we're going to follow on the global financial accounting and reporting. This is where I'm going to go into consolidated reporting, multiple companies as well as FX management, and then follow up with reporting. So let's get started. One of the things that I really want to point out before jumping in and doing a demonstration of the product is that we have software companies that typically will sell services, or they typically will sell hardware. You'll notice here that we have inventory management as well as project accounting and resource management. These are all things that software companies really need in terms of making their day-to-day operations very streamlined. As you can see, NetSuite has this all on one core platform. This is really important because, as you can see, you can run your business using just NetSuite. Before jumping in, I do want to talk about the data model. This is something that, often when I talk to folks, I hear that their current pains are actually associated with this old legacy ERP model. So before jumping in, it's quite important to sort of set the stage for how the data is structured within NetSuite. I'm sure you're used to the sort of sub-ledger that's been batched to the general ledger on a on a periodic basis. But with NetSuite, all transactions in the system are saved real time and hit the general ledger in detail. So what this means to you is, again, you'll have real-time financial reporting, and then also in terms of reporting, you're going to have the details in terms of, you won't see a financial statement and you won't see a reference to a batch, right? You're going to see the details of the transactions that make up that financial statement. So the visibility is definitely key in terms of understanding how NetSuite is different from a data model perspective. And then one of my favorites is that the transactions are inherently linked. So if you can see here, you have an AR subledger. This information in your AR subledger is not going to be linked to your project accounting subledger here, given this old data model. With NetSuite, everything is inherently linked, and you'll see that as I go through the demonstration. That's definitely key in terms of understanding the fundamental differences of what you'll be able to do on the NetSuite platform. All right, so let's just jump in. So here is the home dashboard of NetSuite. You'll notice that I'm signed in as a controller at headquarters. Now, what I can do in terms of, transactions in the system in terms of viewing and also updating is determined by my role. You'll notice that I have something here, an AR specialist role. Of course, you can imagine that as an AR specialist, I would only be able to see and do things that you would want an AR specialist to be able to see and do. And we have well over 50 roles out of the box that you can start from with NetSuite. And I think that's a real key thing to bring up here is that we provide a very solid foundation to run your company and begin from. So, we provide out-of-the-box roles, we provide out-of-the-box reports, we also provide out-of-the-box KPIs. So you'll have a really nice starting point, and of course you can tailor it and make it your own, but you don't have to start from scratch. That's something that, was really, very visible to me in terms of being a hands-on user on a day-to-day basis. I didn't feel like I had to, start from scratch in creating reports. And then in terms of, navigation, I want to now dive into the navigation of NetSuite. Typically people are going to be using something called a save search. Now, this is what I use on a day-to-day basis because it's just like Google, right? You type in, Ultima as a customer. I want to see, what transactions in the system relate to this customer. I have opportunities, even a project test, but perhaps you might just want to, pull up CU for the customer. So you can now see that I'm only able to gather the customer record from the search here. And then perhaps if a customer is calling and they have a reference to an invoice number, I can just type in 679 that the customer has referenced, and lo and behold, you'll notice that there is an invoice with 679 in it. So the navigation in terms of being able to use, being able to use the search is great. It's in terms of being able to navigate. This is just a really easy go-to. Of course, you can also navigate through the tabs at the top. So if I'm going to customers, I might be able to create a sales order directly from sales and enter sales orders. If I want to create a purchase order, I go to vendors, purchases, and enter purchase orders. It's just as easy as that. Of course, we also have the concept of bookmarks. So this is really just you kind of saving the pages or the areas or the reports that you go to on a regular basis. Of course, you'll notice that I'm going to use this throughout the demonstration because these are areas that we want to definitely touch on. So this is another way that you can kind of navigate the system very easily. And then, of course, we also have, recent records. So this is your breadcrumb trail, if you will, of where I've been and where you might want to go back to reference again in terms of transactions. So, as a previous controller, I definitely enjoyed having the navigation. And what this meant was, the employees that I would hire, I wouldn't have to worry about bringing them up to speed on a system. They could get up to speed on the company's processes and understanding, the company itself, but they didn't have to worry about, it's going to take me 6 months to get to understand the system. It was very intuitive. And then, of course, for those people who, were already using the system and who are proficient, what that meant is it didn't take 15 clicks to get somewhere. A lot of systems that I've used in the past, it takes a lot to navigate. So, making sure that the system that you're looking for in an evaluation is really easy to use, and the navigation is quite key. And then as we're going to dive into the dashboards, so taking a look at what we have on our dashboards, I'm going to go through just a couple of what we call portlets. And I'm going to take a look at these in a little bit in depth, but as you can see, I have the ability to personalize this. So this is what I've chosen to be displayed on my home dashboard. So when I initially log in, I want to know information like KPIs or SaaS metrics or reminders kind of indicating where I need to go and what I need to do today. So in terms of the KPIs, let's dive into that really quick. As I mentioned before in terms of the roles, you can see that we have standard KPIs, and then we can also allow you to use a custom KPI. Again, starting with a really nice, solid foundation to begin from. These are things that most companies look at from KPIs. But if there's anything that we don't offer that you are interested in seeing, don't worry, you can add a KPI here. So just a really nice thing to be able to get you up and running and take a look at those standard KPIs. And then, in addition, you can see SaaS metrics. Of course, a lot of folks on the call today, you're really going to want to know and be interested in the metrics that most CFOs, controllers, companies are looking at this. The executives are interested in what are our SaaS metrics. These are the indicators of how successful your business is or areas you might need to look at. You can see that we have a lot of SaaS metrics here, but these are, out of the box in terms of, once you get up and running on NetSuite, these are all provided for you. So, just looking at something like ARR, you can see that I can click in here. I can take a look at a trend graph. I might want to do this monthly. Perhaps you guys, report on ARR on a regular basis. So, at the end of the month, you want to ensure that you're putting this in your slide presentation. You can just easily export it and get it into your slide presentation for an executive team. All right. And then in terms of reminders, this is a really key thing in terms of being able to allow you the ability to let NetSuite tell you what you need to do. This was something that I really enjoyed because I was able to say, okay, what needs my attention today? What should I be reviewing and approving? And what do I need to do so we can close the books? A great example would be sales orders to approve. These are the sales orders that need to be approved before we can close our books for the month of February. So it's really key to understand what sort of pending transactions are out there, and then maybe what transactions do you need to take action on. In addition, you'll notice that I have overdue invoices. This is actually a search or a query in the system. I wanted to be able to summarize how many overdue invoices do we have greater than 500K. So the reminders are not only indicating what action I need to take or what I need to review or what is pending per the close, but also I can write a query and allow that information to be displayed on my reminders. And everything that you see here, you can click into. So you can drill directly into this information. We're going to be doing that with a sales order listing, but know that you can definitely click into this overdue invoices and take a look at those details. But as a controller, I just might want to see how many do we have overdue, and if it gets above a certain threshold, I might want to drill in. All right, so now, like I said, we're going to drill directly into information that is displayed on your home dashboard. And again, because going back to that data model, this information is all going to be easily displayed, and the details are going to be easily retrievable directly from your home dashboard or any reports. So let's take a look at sales orders. Let's open up the sales orders that we have this month. You'll notice there's a very large increase in the sales orders that we have closed this month. So let's go ahead and take a look to see. Here you'll notice that we have a whole listing of customers. And in any report, you can see that we have the ability to kind of slice and dice the information in a way that might be more meaningful to you. Perhaps I want to take a look at a subsidiary hierarchy. I want to know where these sales orders are being drawn from. I can take a look at the individual subsidiaries or companies, and then I can, of course, drill into those. As I mentioned before from the home dashboard, everything is drillable, and the same thing here for this listing. So I'm going to dive into Ultima Technology. Ultima Technology is a brand new customer that I haven't seen before. So let me dive in to see what specific things that they're purchasing, what orders do they have that we're processing. So from here, I might want to take another dive into an individual sales order. What this is going to do is it's going to allow me, as you can see here, in 3 clicks from my home dashboard to get to transactional level detail. So again, 1, 2, 3 clicks on an individual transaction. And this is the visibility that NetSuite's going to provide based on the data model that we cleverly crafted from the beginning. Now we're going to dive into the Customer 360. This is probably one of my favorite parts of demonstrations because as a past controller, I was always looking at specific customers. Our world as a software company revolved around our customers. We wanted to know information as it relates to the customer communication, what we're selling, how we're collecting, how we're interacting with those customers are absolutely significant and a huge focus of software and technology companies. So here, this is our customer record, and as you can imagine, we're just going to walk through a customer record, but consider as we're looking at this information, the types of reporting that you would be able to do on this. So you'll notice that there's a lot of tabs here, and I really think it's not doing it justice. Our Customer 360, it's not justice just going through a couple of these, but hopefully this is going to whet your appetite to see more. But you'll see here that we have messages, so communication. What was very eye-opening for me is some of the processes that we were doing in terms of collections. We could absolutely automate with NetSuite. So you can send out automatic email letters, emailing your customers, reminding them that they have an invoice coming up due or that it's past due. And we do this through something called a workflow. let me just take a moment to dive into the concept of our workflow. This is something, as a past controller, I was using on a regular basis to be able to streamline, our organization. So a workflow you normally think of as an approval process, but with NetSuite, it's much bigger than that. It's much bigger than just an approval. This is a great example of how you can really automate any transaction, any notification, any action within our system. So you'll see here that, is this invoice 30 days past due? So this is a state within the workflow. What this workflow is doing is it's sending an email. It's also going to create a phone call if your customer invoice isn't paid after a certain amount of time. It's going to create a phone call. This is going to be a task that somebody on your AR team will go in and see in their reminders when they first initially log into NetSuite. In the reminders, they're going to see this task that was created as a part of the workflow. And then if this invoice is past a certain number of days due, we're going to go ahead and put that customer on hold. So as you can see, there's a lot of activities or actions that are being taken. One is an email. The second is going to be a phone call or a task to call a customer. And then the third action would be to put the customer on hold. So again, this is, our workflow engine. As a past controller, I created workflows within NetSuite. It was very easy and intuitive. I have an accounting background. I don't have any sort of tech background, and I was able to do this. And that's, another key takeaway I would say of NetSuite is that your end users, the individuals who are, daily users of the system are going to be able to do a lot. The control is going to be in their hands. You don't have to go to an IT team so that IT team can, create a bunch of code and, put in a ticket that will get lost. And, 6 months down the road, somebody might see it. So really, putting the control and allowing the, end users to really use the system how it's intended. All right, so going back to our Customer 360, you'll see again those communications. All these are being sent out directly from that workflow that you just saw. And then, of course, if a customer responds, you'll be able to see it directly here in this customer information. So if you have multiple people on your AR team, they'll be able to see that communication back and forth. It's not going to be lost in somebody's email. And then, of course, these are the activities that I was just talking about. So these activities are going to be created and displayed, as I mentioned, in somebody's reminder so that I have an action item today to follow up on this overdue invoice. And you'll see, again, this is system generated. And another thing that I was able to do is at two of the companies that I worked at using NetSuite, I was able to go completely paperless. Now, you'll note that this is an agreement on a customer record, but as you can imagine, a vendor record, any sort of vendor invoices or bills that are coming from your vendors that you want to maintain in the system, you just go to the transaction and have that attached to the transaction so that anybody looking in the system can see that source record of how that transaction originated. Really easy. You don't have to go to any sort of shared drive and try to fumble through to find something. This is all going to be here at your fingertips, and you can go completely paperless within NetSuite. In addition, you'll notice sales transactions. So you'll see a sales order, some payments, invoices, and even journal entries. So as you can see, this is very visible in terms of providing the transactions in one nice view, even in terms of being able to see, here's a base, here's the base amount for this transaction, but this is the FX amount because we invoiced in a multi-currency. So you can see that this is pounds, we invoiced in pounds, but of course this customer is being reported in US dollars. This is nice to see the multi-currency functionality that we have. And then, of course, items purchased. So going back to see a nice summary of the purchases that a customer has made. And then last but not least, you can see a financials tab. So this is summarizing everything as it relates to your customer. A nice mini aging here. And in addition, you can see the different currencies you're selling in. NetSuite also allows you, NetSuite is PCI compliant, so it allows you to, have your customers putting their credit card information through our customer portal and then storing that information on the customer record right here. that you can then use to ensure that, any purchases that have been denoted that you would have a default credit card, you can absolutely do that. So there's just, a lot of information, as you can see, at the customer record, and I think that it's one of the takeaways that I had is just having so much customer-related information in one place and having the visibility in NICE too. All right, so let's now jump into an individual transaction. I want to walk through a sales order and show you the components of a sales order. So here's a sales order for Ultima Technology. Now, most of our customers are going to have an integration from Salesforce. So, typically, again, this is what we're seeing from a customer perspective, is that you'll have information in your Salesforce CRM. Once that opportunity is closed, we have a seamless integration. So as soon as it's considered closed won, it will integrate into NetSuite as a sales order. And then, of course, you can see here, once the sales order is integrated into NetSuite, it will be unapproved, and you'll have your approval process. And all these activities as it relates to the order will be driven. So, of course, approving, fulfillment, invoicing, payment and collection, and, of course, sharing that customer 360 back with Salesforce in terms of, the activities that have been occurring within your NetSuite ERP. All right, so now jumping into the sales order, you can see that there's so much information on the sales order. But I want to point out 3 things that are really driven from a sales order that I imagine are really important to your order-to-cash process. First and foremost, the contract information. So this is going to allow NetSuite to auto-create a renewal at the end of this contract end date based on a 12-month term. So NetSuite is really going to automate and keep the record of, what is the renewal, how much should it be, and ensure that, any uplift or any add-ons that have occurred during the contract period, NetSuite is going to ensure that those are all going to be, consolidated into one nice renewal and sent out to your customer. The other thing that's driven from a sales order is going to be billing. So as you can imagine, each one of these line items on a sales order has the ability to have a different billing schedule. This is certainly key if you have different terms in terms of how you're billing your customers, especially for professional services. You can see everything is up front here, but in terms of this professional services, let's just click in here real quick, and you'll notice that we have a billing schedule. This is a custom billing schedule, so you can see that we have 100% up front, and then we also allow you to be able to really tailor how you want to bill that customer. So we have the ability to do quarterly, we have the ability to do monthly, whatever that might look like for you, or if it's something that you're going to set a certain number of days, as you can see right here. We set a certain number of days, and this is going to bill the remaining 50%. All right, so you can see that we have the contract information, the billing information, but I do want to certainly get to the revenue recognition. Now, as I talked about before, seeing how all these records are innately linked within the system is really going to help you in terms of navigating and understanding how transactions originated. It's really going to give you a nice history to see, the invoice that was created, the revenue that was created. So let's go ahead and dive into this revenue here. I want to take a look at this revenue and how we're handling. So before diving into the arrangement here, I do want to kind of set this up in terms of talking about how NetSuite handles, revenue recognition. So the 5 key things that you're going to see are the 5-step model for revenue recognition, and this is what, all of the Big 4 audit firms can really agree upon, are these 5-step model for revenue recognition. Of course, identifying the customer, identifying the performance obligations, determine the transaction price, allocate the transaction to performance obligations, and of course recognize revenue when you satisfy the performance obligation. This seems all pretty straightforward, But in terms of matching that into NetSuite, this is how we do this. And we have a very robust and powerful revenue recognition engine. We are able to support today's standards as well as ASC 606. So this is a big thing in terms of folks coming to us and asking, can you support today's standards and can you support the standards for tomorrow? That's definitely, one of the number one asked questions when we're talking to software companies. So, absolutely consider this to be, at the top of the priority list. So, and how NetSuite matches those concepts, the 5 steps, into NetSuite is you can see that we have the revenue arrangement. This, in a sense, is the contract. Then you can also see that we have a revenue element. This is where you'll have the performance obligations. Then you'll notice that we are able to allocate revenue across elements. And this isn't just on an individual order. This is across multiple different orders. So we have the ability to link or merge orders within NetSuite so that you can ensure that the revenue is appropriately allocated back to that contract. And then in terms of a plan, that's where you're going to say that these certain rules apply for GL impact, and we'll look at a plan in more detail. The plan is really going to, record that revenue recognition if it's ratable on the monthly basis, or the revenue recognition if it's based on fulfillment. The plan is really going to drive the GL impact. And then the revenue rule is going to be your basis for revenue recognition. As I just mentioned, ratable, fulfillment, or billing, we have a lot of options, or percent complete. All right, so let's just dive into what this looks like in NetSuite. So as I mentioned before, you're going to see the arrangement, and the arrangement can be linked, as I mentioned, to multiple different arrangements can be merged if you have multiple different orders that you're selling from a customer, and then also you can see the elements here. Elements are, of course, going to be those performance obligations. So you're going to want to ensure that your elements are distinctly identified on your revenue arrangement. So here we have a SaaS license A, a SaaS license B, we have training classes, and we also have professional services. So these are all going to be the 4 distinct elements that we have on that order. And of course, we're going to be ensuring that we're recognizing revenue appropriately for each element. Within NetSuite, we're able to identify, the discounted sales amount. Also, you can have a calculated fair value amount. This is going to be very dynamic. So for this particular order, we have a boundary. So if it's outside of the range, you would use the higher or lower, whichever is closer. So you'll notice that the system is automatically going to identify, based on the fair value, the allocation amount. And if you notice here, this is a SaaS license, so this is going to all be under the standard 605-25. So of course we're going to allocate appropriately based on the percent the percent of the sales amount for each one of these items. So you can see the allocation amount here. As I talked about before, we have the plans. The plans are really going to, drive that GL impact for each one of these elements. And then also I mentioned the rule. So the rule is going to be identified based on, again, this is going to be ratable. This is going to be based on fulfillment once those training courses are actually delivered. And then, of course, professional services. So this is a time and material, so it's going to be event-based. And when we're billing, when we're billing the time and materials, of course, we're going to be recognizing the revenue. All right. So in terms of understanding at a high level, this is your arrangement. It's going to have all those key components we just walked through. It's going to have the elements. It's going to have the allocation automatically done by NetSuite. You store the fair values in NetSuite, and the calculation will occur for you in an automated fashion. And then, of course, you can see the plans as well as the rules. Now let's just open up a plan. Let's take a look at this plan, and I can tell you that I've been able to save a lot of time and effort in terms of utilizing these plans, typically people are doing this in Excel, right? They have an Excel spreadsheet that is very error-prone, and they're managing something as, significant as revenue, and as looked upon an audit. They're doing this all in Excel. And I know personally that, that was absolutely worrisome. So within NetSuite, we utilize these plans to be able to, get out of Excel and put this in a system. Let the system do it for you. So within NetSuite, you can see we're allocating this even periods and prorating it based, of course, on the start and end date of the contract here. And then you can see if you've recognized any amount and then the remaining deferred revenue. So, when auditors would come in, this is something that I would often provide to them. Rather than that, that error-prone Excel spreadsheet, I would provide these individual plans as they were doing their testing. One other thing to point out is that you also have the ability to put revenue on hold. Of course, you can identify the catch-up period when you unhold that, and then you can identify how, the amount is going to be allocated. So this is upon remaining periods only. So you really have a lot of flexibility in our revenue recognition engine in terms of how you're recognizing revenue and setting it up based on your RevRec policy. All right. So after taking a look at an order, you'll recall that we went through the contract information on that order. We also went through the billing information at an individual line item, and then we're taking a look now at revenue. Now, the next thing I'm going to jump into is reporting. Reporting is always something that folks really enjoy taking a look at, because after you've done all that hard work in terms of getting the information in the system, ensuring that you have, that you've worked so hard to close the books for that month, you want to make sure that, when you're taking a look at how it's reported, that, the information looks accurate, and of course, it will tell you a lot about what's going on with your business. It will give you indications in terms of, how healthy it is. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these reports here. So you'll notice here, this is definitely one of my favorites because it's summarizing information from your orders. So you'll be able to take a look at billing as well as revenue. If you take a look at the booking amount, the amount that's been billed, and of course any billing backlog. And then, as I mentioned, you'll also be able to take a look at the revenue. So you can see the total amount that has been planned, what's actually been recognized, and of course, any backlog in terms of revenue. So this is a very nice summary in terms of what you're seeing from an order perspective for billing and revenue. Then I'd like to jump into the deferred revenue roll forward. This is where, you would want to take a look at the roll forwards. This is something that often would take a lot of time in terms of constructing in Excel, and of course the auditors would always ask for this, and it would, take a lot of brain damage to get this done. So you can see here that the deferred revenue roll forward detail is going to include the beginning balance, any new transactions, any adjustments, revenue, variance, and ending balance. So it's going to give you a really nice roll forward of the ending, of course, at the beginning to the end. And then, of course, what a lot of people really enjoy taking a look at is that deferred revenue waterfall report. This is what you will be able to use based on those plans that we just took a look at. So you'll see that revenue being allocated across ratably, over the months up until the end of the term, and you'll see this being allocated all the way out. So this is something that, a lot of people, again, are doing in Excel. Let the system do it for you, and then, of course, let NetSuite report that to you and be the support, not only at the plan level, but at the reporting level for your audit, and then even to understand, what revenue should I be recognizing in the future in these particular periods. All right, so we've gone over we've definitely gone over the order to cash. I just want to close out with a real quick summary of this. So just to reiterate, we are compliant with today and future standards for SaaS software and hardware sales. as I talked about before, we have dynamic fair value pricing. So that means that if you have if you have percent for maintenance, if you're using that, you can absolutely use our dynamic calculations for fair value. In addition, you can allocate revenue across elements on an individual order and across multiple orders. Also, you can see that revenue plans can be amended, put on hold, and caught up. We talked about ratable or event-based revenue recognition, so on fulfillment or invoiced. And also in terms of, automating the month-end deferred revenue reclass. So if there's any adjustment for FX, we can certainly adjust the deferred revenue based on the, the end of the month FX exchange rate. We didn't show you that, but these are some of the things that we can definitely do, and I wanted to ensure I was summarizing everything. And then also any unbilled receivable. So for percent complete for revenue recognition for services, you can use NetSuite to automate that unbilled amount. So we'll post that and, of course, reverse it in the following month. And then in terms of that real-time revenue reporting, we took a look at the deferred revenue waterfall. We also took a look at the deferred revenue roll forward. These are going to be, very insightful things that you're going to be able to, take a look at month-end close or even throughout the month. So you can take a look at, where you're at, how you're performing, and again, all reporting within NetSuite is real-time. And then just really quickly, we did talk about some renewal management, but I'd like to actually jump into global financial accounting and reporting. I don't want to miss this, but just know that in terms of, automating your renewals, you can absolutely do that within NetSuite. All right, so NetSuite ONEWORLD Global Financials. This is, one of the things that I absolutely relied upon to be able to operate in a very streamlined form and fashion, especially as we were acquiring companies and adding additional offices. I think we added, it was 6 additional international offices within, I think it was a 2-year span of time. So that was, something that we, were able to rely upon NetSuite to easily create those companies within the system and easily create, new offices. The system, maintenance or the system setup was definitely an afterthought. It wasn't something that we, were apprehensive about because, oh no, we're going into another location. How are we going to handle that in the system? That was never the case. You can easily create a new subsidiary. And of course, as you can see in terms of the breadth and the depth, we have over 200 countries that we're transacting in. We have 20 UI languages. We have 90 bank payment formats. And then we also support over 100 tax reporting calculations. So what this means is that if you, expand into a location that we support, you don't have to go through a partner. We can set up those tax codes for you within NetSuite. All right, so in terms of currency processing, we take care of measurement and translation. And what we can do is just dive right into NetSuite to take a look at what this means to you and how NetSuite handles this. But of course, on translation, we're going to, for the balance sheet, use current, average for the income statement, and historical rates for equity. This is all in line with ASC 830. And then for currency remeasurement, this is where you would have a realized gain or loss upon settlement or an unrealized gain or loss if you had an open balance at the end of the period. So let's just dive in and take a look at what this looks like within NetSuite. All right, so going back to our income statement, you can see, again, the tabs that you have in these reports. So I might want to, blow this out to take a look at subsidiary hierarchy. So from here, I'm going to take a look at, Germany. Germany is a part of EMEA, which is then a part of the larger global headquarters. So you can see here the hierarchy, if you will, of Germany. You'll notice that it's being reported right now in U.S. dollars. So if I want to take a look maybe at EMEA Consolidated, and EMEA, the headquarters of EMEA is in our London office. So EMEA is going to be reported in pounds. So here, you'll notice that Germany, which was just reported in U.S. dollars, is now being reported in pounds. So you can see the real-time financial consolidation that's occurring within the system. NetSuite, again, is using the consolidated rates, and you'll see the multiple different layers of reporting here as I go through. So if I wanted to take a look at Germany alone, you'll notice now I was just taking a look at Germany in pounds, and now you'll see Germany is being reported in euros. So perhaps I wanted to take a further deep dive into professional services. I've noticed that the professional services have really increased, in this current period from last. So I might want to dive in to take a look at, what transactions are being posted to the system. This looks like a brand new customer again, so I might want to drill directly into this. And just to pause a moment is if we back up, we were just at the income statement. We saw Germany being reported in U.S. dollars, in pounds, and then euros, which is, of course, the base currency. But now we're going to take a look at an individual invoice. And this invoice, you'll notice, is being reported in Danish krones. So you'll see that the amount is quite different from what we saw from euros. Let's take a look at the GL impact just to see. This is 500K. You'll notice, of course, this is 75K in terms of, reporting in the other currency. So that's really important to take a look at, how we can see one transaction in multiple different currencies. So now I talked about being able to, drill through from an individual transaction into the related transactions. Again, this is the drill-through capability or visibility into, what transactions are related to, what other transactions in the system. So now I'm taking a look at the payments. We've settled this for Danish krones with the exchange rate of 0.2, and the invoice itself was using an exchange rate of 0.15. So we would have a gain as it relates to this particular settlement, and NetSuite is automatically recording that gain as a result of settling this particular invoice. And now with the month-end close process, the same concept applies for unrealized gains or losses. With the month-end close process, you'll just check a process to go through, and NetSuite will take a look at all of the open multi-currency transactions in the system and report the unrealized gain or loss at the end of that month. And then, of course, it will reverse in the following month. So that's how NetSuite can really automate your global accounting such that you will rely on NetSuite for all the currency processing. And I mentioned before, you will also be able to rely on NetSuite for these countries where we provide, localized tax reports. So rather than going to a partner, you'll be able to set up tax codes within NetSuite, and we can also, for these that are listed in orange, file those online. One other quick thing to talk about is that, a lot of organizations were hearing that, anything that's not customer-related, customer-centric, we certainly, don't want to spend a lot of time. Our focus is on our customers, making sure they're satisfied, and making sure we focus on them. So anything outside of that, like the AP process, really trying to figure out how to streamline that and spend, the least amount of time on AP as possible. And you can do that through electronic payments. You can see that we support, many different countries here in terms of providing electronic payments, and essentially this is the file, so you can very easily create the payments for these at the end of the month or, during your AP process, so that you can send these payments out being generated from NetSuite, and you don't have to worry about, any other form of going into another site, creating payments. It can all be automated from NetSuite. All right, so from here, what I wanted to do is just take a quick look at multi-book. Multi-book is going to be, something that a lot of organizations are considering, especially as we're coming up against, ensuring that organizations are reporting their accounting rules the current standards, and then of course the future standards. So you can see here that multi-book will allow your organization to have, the primary book, which will report, this one business transaction. It's just entered once, but then it will have a different GL impact for revenue recognition as it relates to ASC 606. And the same thing applies to statutory reporting. You'll see that, you would have a statutory reporting set of books as well as ASC 606. So this really allows your organization to not worry about using Excel to, have multiple different sets of financials. You can just use NetSuite to do all this for you. All right, so going back again to, taking a look at some of the highlights. Really important to understand that NetSuite, provides automated daily currency updates with over 190 currencies. It doesn't seem realistic that there's that many out there, but there is. And then also in terms of currency management, as you saw, we were able to, do the remeasurement and translation all in real time. And then getting to the heart of scalability. When you're expanding into global enterprises, and you want to do that in a real streamlined fashion, you need to take a look at, does the system that you're evaluating, does that provide localized tax reporting in an easy fashion? Also electronic payments and the multiple different languages we support. And of course, we just took a look at multi-book for statutory reporting or even ASC 606. And then of course, the real-time consolidations. All right. So what I want to end up is taking a look at the reportable dimensions. It's always nice to kind of begin with the home dashboard where you're summarizing all that pertinent information to run your organization, and also end on the reporting that is key to understand understand things like the reporting for a particular sub, or understanding the reporting or books for a particular department, class, and location. In addition to this, we have unlimited custom segments. So these are the sort of out-of-the-box, account string, but certainly you have the ability to add as many as you would like. And then, of course, something to really take note is that you don't have to add an account string for information to be reportable. So a general ledger extension is going to be as simple as something, that's an item. So this is going to be a SKU on invoices to your customer. You can very easily report on that. Or maybe a customer, project, vendor, employee. These are all going to be inherently linked to transactions, and NetSuite will allow you to easily report. So you can see that these aren't a part of the account string, but certainly as we dive in, you'll be able to note that you can, you can search on that. So actually, let's go back to this income statement. Let's take a look at the headquarters consolidated. You can see here that this is, going back to consolidated, we're now viewing this in U.S. dollars. We're taking a look at the subsidiary hierarchy, but perhaps I want to, slice and dice this information to take a look at the department hierarchy. That's a really important thing that I want to see, at any given time, what department spend is. In addition to that, as I talked about, you could, I just click this more over here, and you can take a look at, you can extend your income statement out to perhaps a customer. So today we were looking at Ultima. Let's just maybe take a look at income statement with just Ultima on there. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. There we go. So let's go ahead and refresh and take a look at our income statement with just Ultima in this filter. So as you can see, you can really easily take a look at information and slice it, dice it in the way that you want to, you want to understand, you want to consume. Let's go ahead and make this all and go back to refresh. And, as I mentioned before, for all of our reports, you can easily tailor, it's called customize here, but it's not a dirty word. Really, customization just means, in the sense of how we use that term, is that you'll be able to tailor or make the report your own. So you can really easily decide that this is the report that you want to send out to your executives, and send that out, based on a particular time frame that you're going to identify. So maybe, you want to run this report at the end of the month. You can make this a monthly event and ensure that, on the fourth Wednesday, that you're absolutely going to be closed and finalize your books. Then you're going to send this out to all the department heads. So not only are you able to sort of create these financial statements or, customize reports that are very, very tailored to your business, but you can also automate the, consumption of the information. So, you can send this out so that you don't need to wait for somebody to ask you for it, but NetSuite will automatically send this out. All right. So just wanted to kind of recap real quick to make sure that we had walked through all the things that we had, we had identified as, items on the agenda. So, we took a look at the system architecture, that GL that's going to allow you to see everything real time. Everything's going to be posted in detail. We took a look at the roles, navigation, dashboards, the Customer 360. Again, one of my favorites. I really enjoy taking a look at that visibility that you can get into your customer. The order-to-cash process, making sure that you're, have a very nice process, utilizing things like workflows for cash collections, as well as approvals. And then, of course, global financial and accounting reporting. This is going to be very important for organizations in terms of, being able to scale and grow from, not only organic, but, maybe an acquisition is occurring and ensuring that, you have the support within your system to be able to easily, add on any business or add on any, additional location. And, of course, the GL setup and reporting. So I hope that you were able to glean some, some great information today in terms of what we can, offer and provide to you.
Thank you so much, Carrie. That was it's certainly difficult to get through everything in an hour, and thank you for doing such a good job doing that. We have time for just one question, and we have a lot of people attending the webinar today. We've had a lot of great questions coming in. A common theme that you see, that I'm seeing a lot of these questions, I think can be kind of rolled up into one general question, and that is, Carrie, can you talk a little bit about how people can actually take, functionality they saw today, kind of out-of-the-box stuff with NetSuite, and customize it, kind of for their unique business need? So that was a lot of kind of questions around that, or how can I tweak this a little bit, et cetera. So can you just kind of talk broadly about that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, I think utilizing my past experience in this is a great way to address this question. So, anyone from an AR or an AP specialist, I worked with an AR specialist that was always really interested in getting, information outside of just her AR aging from the system. So she would be, she would create a save search or the query that I referred to earlier in the dashboard presentation. She would create this save search, and she would be able to, run reporting or searches on her own. And so I know a lot of folks need to, go to IT to do that, or add a custom field. That's definitely something that I did myself as a controller. We didn't have the information that we needed for a transaction, so I would just go and add a custom field, or modify the forms to only include information that we wanted to have on transactions. Or perhaps again, going back to the workflows, I created the workflows myself without any IT experience. So I think those are some good examples of how you can really make it your own, and you don't have to worry about the overhead that is associated with that customization or that tailoring to make NetSuite really work for you.
Great. Thank you, Carrie. So for anyone else, all the questions that were submitted during this webinar today, we have captured those, and someone from at NetSuite will absolutely be following up with you. Unfortunately, we're out of time today, so thank you for your time and attention, and I hope everybody has a great day.